There were three extremely strong single-player offline games that stood out to me last year. First of which was Dragon's Dogma 2, just. The second was Stellar Blade. Thirdly, Rise of the Ronin, all of which got reviewed, but I wanted to spend a lot more time with all three. Ronin would have been out 1 year on the 22nd of March, so it's coming up to its annual celebration. We also have Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is the new samurai open world game from Ubisoft, coming out at the end of the month as well. This one had nearly a full year to have a good crack at the old open world samurai Ronin format, and I think it succeeded surprisingly well in it. We have also seen quite a few patches drop since I actually last played the game. This includes 1.08, which is actually a PlayStation Pro centric update, but 7 also includes some overall performance improvements it mentions in and out of combat and in the open world itself. I got my hands on this game about 4 months after its launch. I was very late. That did give the game a chance, however, not to appear day one, so to speak, which didn't go too well on a performance front, and it still, unfortunately, isn't where I'd like to see it. But we do have more choice when it comes to switching out the modes, including a ray tracing, quality, and out-and-out performance. I do have a look at those other modes, but I settled on performance for the majority of this video, and that was the case way back last year when I got my hands on it first time round. I want to be clear in mentioning that the game very much impressed me. I am a big fan of Team Ninja. Been recently putting out some Nioh 2 content, been playing that Ninja Gaiden, and I'm well into Wild Hearts brackets Amiga Force. I love the personality of all of their games, the aesthetic, the NPCs, the Japanese feudal angles that they often take. They're normally inclusive of quite a lot of supernatural scary yokai stuff, and this one is very grounded, which is why I found it such a refreshing angle from the team. There's no Ninja Gaiden monsters in here, and I think that brings me on to the angle of the first review. You need to play this game for quite a while to realize what its message is, and it is kind of like restoring the map, bringing order back to a lot of established areas, villages, cities even. And your role isn't exactly black and white. You can take quite a lot of sides, and you can get involved with NPC characters and develop relationships in so many different directions that it's probably not possible to explore all of it simultaneously. There's a male and female protagonist choice at the start, and I think some of those storylines go in slightly different directions, but you can screw up relationships with important NPC players or purposely develop others and open up all these really cool quest lines, and a lot of that feels very much organic, and that isn't clear to the beginner player, I don't feel, when they're exploring these camps or dealing with enemies. Mid-game is where things really start moving. You get given a different area. It is about exploiting where you start, getting down that story campaign to then go to a separate location. That also switches out your house and all of the local NPCs around. Very cool, and it does take a while to actually get that step up. Team Ninja have also brought along their impeccable combat model with some tweaks and adjustments that perfectly fit that open world format. You also get a glider and winch hook. It's not exactly Breath of the Wild meets Bionic Commando, but it is a thing, and it does help you traverse buildings. It's like a designated hook point, but it allows the game to go quite crazy on traversal, secret caves, tunnels, big height that you get on a lot of man-made buildings, that sort of thing. So there's even a Creed aspect here. It is also brutally violent, showing you some of the more gory aspects of combat back then. The outfits, the swords, the metalware, everything's just epic. I love all the architecture, the way the landscape looks, the plants, everything is top notch with how they put the world together. Swinging back to the combat and the Nioh games and Team Ninja, they have really good heritage with making great Souls-likes, but what they also excel in is quite good loot rotation and stuff having cool elements, looking really good. So getting into the 7 different weapon sets in this game is something that's very easy to do. You then have to make a decision on what stance kind of suits you. That is dependent on what stance the enemy is in or what weapon they are carrying. Now that area of meta is so addictive for me. The more you use a weapon, the more you open up different stances for it, and massive input combos. There's this huge plethora of choice hidden behind the weapon system. It's also the first Team Ninja game that I've played that has a strong stealth element to it. People not seeing you, getting stealth attacks, using that glider to come in and peeling away enemy bases, using range, using explosives and environments. Alongside that, flawless combat and all of that amazing loot and weapon clashing. You have such a great time when you're taking down a camp, dealing with one of these main foes or even formidables. That's something we'll get to. Every little discoverable enemy camp has its own sort of iceberg behind it when you have to take down everybody. Let's have a look at some of these graphics settings on a base level PlayStation 5 away from that performance mode. Our first port of call is going to be the ray tracing mode. Now this is a magnificent idea on paper, having a feudal Japan open world map made by Team Ninja with ray tracing. It does all sound too good to be true, and unfortunately it is on that base level machine. Pro owners, please report back to me. Here's the thing with the game, and if you're into Souls-likes or even reaction-based third-person ARPGs, you'll know that frame rates are so damned important. With this game, I reckon it's coming down to 4 or 5 frames for the window for some of that triangle maximum parry. You know what I'm talking about. There's kind of 2 levels with this game. You've technically got 2 guards, so you cannot see a single frame drop in combat. One-on-one stuff's fine, boss stuff works, but if you're in a crowd in a village, things will just start going a bit haywire. And if you're as bad as these games as me, the first thing you want to blame is the machine and the frame rates, and sure enough, that's exactly what I do. So ray tracing came off rather quickly. That also, unfortunately, does go for the quality mode. But here's the thing, the performance is actually got some scaling going on in it. It doesn't look like 1080. It looks very crisp and quite high res for something that's running at 60 frames. And to be hurtling around this map, particularly on a horse, and seeing new villages come up and enemies popping in everywhere, it copes completely well. The performance mode is not a bad default. Staying on the subject of controlling the crowds or fighting more than one enemy at the same time, games handle this in a number of different ways. Souls-likes, even Wukong, tend to just throw caution to the wind and allow everything a window to hit you. So you've got to be watching all the people around you. Normally it's the individual you have focused that is the one that engages with you. Rise of the Ronin is just like, it's your own fault if you alerted more than one person. They will all try to attack you as best they can without clashing with another NPC. It's like old school Kung Fu movies or any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. If you look at the extras, if you look at the enemies, they're all sort of waiting, aren't they, to sort of have their turn to do an attack. With this, no. That is quite a precious thing, you realise, and part of the model. It's not about just rocking up. It's not like the come and fight me thing that Jin does in Ghost of Tsushima. It does also drip feed you some different weapon types, holding some really cool stuff back, and the same goes for developing those top end moves. You have a flip, smash, upward attack come in on the standard samurai sword. You then start learning some of the British swordsman techniques on the camps. It's well cool how the story is positioned, with there being the arrival of a far western mysterious visitors. You also get some of the traditional dress and military garb of that period as well, which is just a pleasure to don. Now it's got one other crazy trick up its sleeve, which I didn't like when I first clapped eyes on it on the review, and it was to do with NPC players coming along with your missions. You can slot them out. That's directly related to your relationship building, but you can switch into whoever you want, or whoever you've brought along in a boss fight, in a normal battle, and when you die, you go down on one knee and you then command who's remaining, so you can also revive yourself and then teleport back into your own body. There's quite a lot going on with that, but I did actually actually warm to it, because if you know the characters you're going to be taking over and what their moves are all about, sometimes it's something that you want. You might deliberately switch because the enemy's vulnerable, some dude's got a pistol, and you can just take advantage of situations. I think it's one of the few games where you can parry a flying bullet and turn your sword into a flaming tool of justice. They might have tried to cram too much into this, but that's not a bad thing when you look at what a game has got to offer you, particularly on the open world front. Some of them can have quite a stagnant format that you have to apply to every problem. With this, it's crazy with the options, almost Far Cry-like attack directions on these camps, how to take them down, how to get the big dudes dealt with early. I never looked at any online co-op, and I never will, I don't think. That is where those NPC slots come in, and that's why most of the main missions involve more than one focal player. I think a lot of this game is geared up for online co-op, as with Nioh and Nioh 2, but that doesn't mean it's not going to shove loads of amazing content to that single offline player. And there is always that bonus. There is always that option to then call someone in if you're stuck on a mission or you want some help on a tough boss. Actually, on that online subject, it is a little bit cheeky because the window option for getting someone in is only on prior to main missions and sort of big enough side quests. You can't wander around with your mate in this world, so there is still a large single player aspect to the model. I'm currently doing the Monster Hunter Wilds online system review, right? The guy I'm doing it with is a doctor. He's a trauma surgeon, and we have come unstuck so much with that operating system and getting kicked and the whole thing just being frustrating as hell. This, I can thankfully say, is nothing like that. So Stellar Blade is the next one I'm going to double back on. I want to give Dragon's Dogma 2 the longest time it's possibly got to sort its goddamn performance out. Hopefully there's some toggles when I next look at it. Give me something in the comments if you're still playing it. I'm also going to talk about Wukong, Black Myth Wukong again, and Armored Core 6. Both of those two are kind of gems. So we got 5 beauties there. Ronin, Stellar, Dogma, Black Myth and AC6. I'm also long overdue putting the top single player PlayStation 5 games 2024. I'm waiting for a few to drop in for 2025. Avowed was damn good and it will get a large mention. Link in description and annotation. Please, if you haven't, can you go out and enjoy this game? I found it again, second time, for about £40 pre-owned, physical. I was Couch Coop. I will see you down there.